welcome to today's edition of the afternoon edition. My name is Isa Nu. Today we shall be discussing on issues that pertains to the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And as you know, the issue of gender-based violence is very, very critical at this particular point in time, because the United Nations also have put in much effort with respect to how they can get this reduced across the world. So the question that still remains is Nigeria, or let me say Africa, any closer to eliminating gender-based violence? But then, this question will be answered by our guest today in person of Vanessa Kisowile. I just hope I pronounced that well. But then, let me just move forward with this little snippet. As the 2023 commemoration of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, GBV, climaxes, women voices are resonating the need for all-inclusive dimension for a total stop to the crime. The data manager, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, in person of Mr. Sunday Agbakaba, stated that Nigeria recorded 27,698 cases of sexual and gender-based violence between 2020 and 2023. Agbakaba further stated that this during the training that took place in Umuahia, Abia State, he said that there are several issues that has to do with GBV, and the GBV dashboard has clearly shown that the data that was obtained from the inception of GBV national dashboard between 2020 and October 2023, breaking down the figures, Agbakwa said the ministry recorded over 1,145 fatal GBV cases, while 393 perpetrators were convicted within the period under review. Agbakwa further said that the dashboard also showed that 9,636 open cases and 3,432 new cases and 1,741 closed cases and 1,895 follow-up cases were all recorded during this period. And according to him, the dashboard is designed to enhance SGBV reportage in the 30 states of Nigeria, and including the Federal Capital Territory. So, according to United Nations research that also took place, about 736 million women participated in that particular research. Almost 1 in 3 have been subjected to physical and or sexual intimate partner violence, non-partner sexual violence, or both, at least once in their lives. Looking at these statistics, more than 4 in 5 women, girls, that's 86%, are living in countries without robust legal protection, or in countries for which data are not readily available. So no country is within the reach of eradicating intimate partner violence, despite the scale of the problem and these worrying trends of financial commitment to violence prevention remain limited. Investing in preventing violence against women and girls is crucial to achieving the gender equality by 2030. So in line with this sustainable development goal, so far, 0.2% of global official development assistance is directed to gender-based violence prevention, of which 25% of countries have systems to track budget allocations for gender equality, and 78% of countries have budgetary commitment to implementing legislation addressing violence against women. So our guest today, in person of Vanessa Kisowile, is the founder of She Found. She will be discussing with us on issues that has to do with gender-based violence, and to also give us a perspective of her own on how she sees Africa achieving the eradication of gender-based violence. She is from Tanzania, so it will be good for us to also hear the perspective of other countries. So let's go for a very short break, and when we return, we start up with the conversation.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television, DST.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria. Independence for Nigeria in 1960 is imperative. But independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty, human dignity, and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot here at this conference agree on a constitution. If there's any doubt among us as to what should be written into the constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems, as the goal has done recently, to the people whom we profess to represent, either just before or at the federal elections late in 1959.
Welcome back from the mouth break, and just before the break I did inform you that today we'll be joined by Vanessa Kisowile, the founder of She Found, discussing on issues that has to do with gender-based violence, in not just in Nigeria but in Africa, since Vanessa is from Tanzania. Vanessa, good afternoon and welcome to the program. It's nice having you today, trying to get your perspective, because for some time now we've been looking at gender-based violence, and you know the 16 days of activism is very, very important. Yeah. Now, looking at your background, you are the founder of She Found, and I would like to ask, what has She founded with respect to the issue of gender-based violence? Okay,
so maybe I'll start with a little bit of what we do. So She Found is a not-profit organization. We work with women entrepreneurs and women-led businesses. And the reason why we focus that, our focus is purely achieving or contributing rather to zero poverty and economic empowerment of a community through the support and insisting that women are able to live an impactful but yet profitable life and contribute to the building of the society, because they're already playing a very great role whatsoever. Now, with respect to gender-based violence, one of the things that we've come to find out, a lot of women, and let me maybe back a bit. It is my understanding that gender-based violence is not only facing women alone. It is both for men and women. But now, with respect, because we work with women majority, what we came to find out, financial freedom, or rather economic freedom, plays a vital role in making sure the safety, or in deciding the experience of these women as far as gender-based violence is concerned. So we are insistence that a woman who is financially independent, who can make crucial decisions in her life without the aspect of those decisions being influenced by her lack or insecurity of finances, is much more safer, or is in a much more better place to be secured, or to not find herself in places where gender-based violence is concerned, as far as intimate partners and close family relations are concerned. Now, there is still a broader aspect. Numbers, you're mentioning the numbers in Nigeria, they are terrifying. The numbers in Tanzania are not, it's sad to say, but they're not any better, because in Nigeria, I believe it's 1 to 3 in the ages of 15-45, they've all experienced physical, if not sexual, specifically sexual violence. In Tanzania, it's mostly worse in rural areas, where it's up to 52% of women have experienced gender-based violence, and specifically around sexual violence. In the urban areas, and for instance in Dar es Salaam, which is like our Lagos, it's around 41%, 44%, if I'm not mistaken correctly. I can be corrected if I'm wrong. But when you really scan there are social aspects, but there are also economic aspects, and then there is the psychological aspect that are really much influenced by our environment, that insist that we find ourselves in a community where this subject matter is still something that we're discussing year on and year on. While I acknowledge and I do believe that some of the initiatives, like the 16 days of activism, are extremely important in creating awareness and sensitization of the subject matter. But I would rather go further as to say that there's a need to create systems, structures, laws, things that are guide, and not just to create but implement them as well, that guide and guard a community and insist there is safety for both men and women within the community.
When you started, I see that you started with the issue of finance, which is very, very important. We want an independent woman, a woman that can look after herself and rest. But then when you look at the statistics properly, in urban areas, the women seem to have, they have access to this finance. They do business and the rest of it like that. And then when you compare that to rural areas, where they don't have much finance as they do in urban settings, and then you correlate the gender-based violence activities in both the urban and the rural area, you discover that of even the urban area seems to be much compared to that of the rural area. So do you think finance is a key aspect in reducing the gender-based violence?
I'll tell you, not all that glitters is gold. Did you hear me? Not all that glitters is what? Is gold. So there's this picture of beauty that women right now in urban are becoming more financially independent, they're more powerful, they more have access to funding. I work with women entrepreneurs. I can give you statistics. In Africa, women lead as far as the whole entrepreneurship landscape is concerned. It's about 62%.
That's very true.
But majority of them run small and medium enterprises, and specifically the small ones, which all of the finances, the reports by UN Women and other agencies that I've done, and you would find, even with VC money, you would find that majority of women run businesses for two reasons. One, to cater for their own personal and family needs, or they would run impactful businesses. But of the 62%, which is a landscape that run the whole entrepreneurship landscape in Africa, guess the percentage of them that actually get funding or have sustainable businesses, even for that matter. In the venture capital space, it's not less than 7%. We had a recent report, was it by African Business Angels Network, if I'm not mistaken, or I'm not sure which one, but it's only 7% of the leading spaces, especially for instance in the tech space, Egypt, Nigeria, Tunisia, about 5 countries, Kenya,
Morocco, I think.
Yes. It's only 7% of those women have access to funding that can ensure that they move from selling. Here, I'm learning my favorite food is egusi.
Yeah.
So from selling egusi to scaling the business to running a proper restaurant, which that can insist that she is actually financially stable. So because all she's doing, she's running a egusi shop, she will get today, whatever she gets feeds her today, and that's over. So if her child gets sick tomorrow, she is still subjected to going into finding her place where she will need financial assistance.
That's if she's independent.
That's if she's independent.
At a point where she has an husband, definitely.
That is a whole different discussion.
Okay.
I work with women entrepreneurs, and by God's grace, I've had to work with their men as well, their husbands, and I'm glad it has made my work very easy, actually, because I've met all kinds. I've met those that are very genuinely supportive, and I would see the difference the moment they understand what you're doing with his wife and the business and the impact it will have in the financial system of the family and the burden it will actually take from him. They become very engaging, and you would see how quick the businesses of that woman picks up. And then I've met those that I had to beg and do consulting and maybe a bit pray to God for wisdom, but I may have to make them understand that the financial freedom of the wife doesn't negate his role as the head of the family, as the father, as the husband, but in such it allows the family to have the freedom and the flexibility to live a life of impact, a life of freedom, and even take that whole pressure which brings mental health issues, because the aspects of gender-based violence are contributed by a lot of things, sometimes including the social pressure that births mental issues, the way we have cultured our men. I'm sorry to say this, I'm not
globally, not Africa.
It's globally. It's not restricted to Nigeria or Tanzania or Africa. It's globally. The way we have cultured our men, men are not supposed to cry. Men are not comfortable to ask for help because we have not allowed them to be vulnerable. But the whole essence of you getting married is you accepting that you will be vulnerable with someone for the rest of your life, that you have accepted that I'm going to walk this thing called life with someone. So the moment you build a wall, you suck all the pressure. And because you don't have anywhere else to release, and you've decided this is your life partner, you build resentment when things are not working. Yet, this person could have been a good instrument to support you to where you're going. So instead of working with them, you work against them. Hence the whole intimate partner themes that are happening.
But in this case,
Yes.
we are now seeing a reverse dimension now. Because even the men now have even started speaking. They don't want to
Yes.
keep it. Because just recently, you remember the
Which is
issue
a good
between
thing.
Israel, DMW, one of the PA to Davido and the wife, Shayla, where they had issues, and the man has to come out and say, look, this is what I've been passing through. So in this particular case now, how then can we have a more settled community where both the male and the female, the man and the woman, the boy and the girl, can actually come and say, look, it is time we keep up, or we keep all this problem away, and then start charting the course for development for both men and women. So in Shifan now, how do you people address issues like this whenever you have an issue that has to do with gender-based violence, irrespective of the sexes?
Okay, so first and foremost, let me acknowledge openly that there are issues that are facing men, whether in relationships and in social environment, that are related to gender-based violence as well. Young boys right now, it's a sad situation, honestly. But as far as Shifan is concerned, one of the ways we actually look at the healing process of the woman first. Because we need to understand the underlying problem before I go and start attacking the man and deciding who is wrong and who is right. My job is to work with this mother, this wife, to understand her environment. So I get to understand her environment. If we're in a good place, we get to meet the husband and have the conversations. Sometimes the concerns are valid, and sometimes the concerns are purely based on what we were talking about, the social construct, the way the men are built, their expectations of themselves, and most of the times it's expectations of themselves to what should be and what should have been done. And then instead of communicating that, they just react over that. So having that conversations first helps us create a balance or a balanced picture of what is going on in the home. And then also gives us the understanding of whether, as far as, because we're helping this woman build her business and her financials and all that, whether this is a type of support that we can include the husband, or this is a type of support that we can insist we can help the husband become a good support system but not be included, because we can't change somebody's character overnight. So there are ones that you speak with and you realize, oh, it's just they didn't understand. So they become on board and they become the integral part of the business, and you see that business bloom. But there are others, you talk to them and you scan all of these things and you realize, okay, if he gets here, this business will die. This woman is most probably not going to go anywhere. So the best, you create an environment where, or rather we create an environment where the husband becomes a support system, so he's comfortable. We've had husbands that drive their wives to our training centers. They come pick them up, their wives at 11 at night after the trainings. Sometimes we have overnight meetings just to vent issues. But this is the same person that wasn't comfortable. But because you have created an environment where he now understands that this is for the good of the whole family, but also he's part and parcel of it. We're not creating an environment where the wife is going to go against him, and if she becomes rich, he's going to be all of that. You see the change, in which I would say it's something that can be done in different programs as well.
Before we go for a break, I would like you to respond to this one, because if you check the calendar year of the United Nations, the Men's Day being celebrated is just one, Father's Day one. But when it comes to women, you have several of it. And probably sometimes I even ask myself, is the United Nations biased towards women? Because even this year's International Women's Day is being tagged International Day for the elimination of violence against women. We are expecting that of men to also showcase, because at some point, people have also argued that why is it that the women seem to be crying loud? Because even the wife of Jay-Z, Beyonce, did say that women, they run the world. So why do people always have this problem that the man must do this, the man must do that, and then you feel a bit relaxed that, oh, since the man is even there, why should we even do anything at some point? People also do question yourself.
Okay, let me backdate a bit. Historically, when you go back, history hasn't been very kind to men. The same way, to women. The same way history hasn't been very kind to Africa, with slavery and all of that. At some point, I think as a community, we misjudged in understanding or in trying to build social constructed roles. We misunderstood the strength of the woman and her contribution in the community. So instead, we downplayed her role and what she would bring to the table. And then on the other side, I'm not blaming, I'm stating facts. Our men relaxed and they took the role of being the king of the jungle as though there is no responsibility to the king. When you are becoming a king, you have responsibility to guard the jungle, to provide for the jungle, to do all of these things. But that doesn't negate that the lioness who is keeping the cubs, who is making sure the territory is safe, doesn't play a role. So because of that, there has been a build-up pain in the women community because it's like genetics, the psychology. You inherit grandmothers and mothers and great-grandmothers' pain for a long time. And it creates that, the same way men will be told, men don't cry. Women are now, for a long time, our grandparents experienced that because I couldn't take care of my own children. I had to be subjected to a man who doesn't care about my sexual need. He would just rape me and go. I would be subjected to a man that drinks and beats me around, but I can't leave because he's the one providing for my children. So what I would tell my daughter, make sure you're financially stable and make sure a man doesn't run you.
Well, as much as I will not counter what you've stated,
just to scream, that comes out of pain. I'm not justifying it.
Okay.
It comes out of pain. So what the society needs to do right now, there has to be one clear laws that are implemented to secure both men and women.
Yeah, that's very good. I love that ending because I would have attacked on that other axis of it. But then, let's go for this mild break, and still discussing with us here in the studio is Vanessa Kisowile, the founder of She Found, discussing issues of the 16 days of activism against violence against women. And definitely she has been giving us some very good facts with respect to how we can lay a better foundation for the community in such a way that, yes, we can treat each other right. So during the break, definitely there will be a report from the FCT Women's Secretariat leader in person of Mrs. Dayo Benjamin Lani.
With critical stakeholders across the 6 area councils and the 17 chiefdoms of the FCT by the mandate secretary and her team.
Today, this run, as the Orange Run, is a commemorative run for the conclusion of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This year, United Nations gave as its theme, Unite, Invest to Prevent Gender-Based Violence. And what we've done at the Center of Unity, with my mandate as the mandate secretary for women and the girl child in the FCT, is to unite our entire value chain socioculturally through our municipal area councils, the 6 area councils, Abaji, Kwali, Kuje, Buari, Gwagwalada and Amak.
The goal, the mandate secretary, FCT Women Affairs Secretariat said, is to get the buy-in of all towards protecting women and girls from the consequences of gender-based violence.
We are out to end gender-based violence because the issue of gender-based violence in Nigeria is too high. We as a girls, most people do discriminate us that we cannot be able to do this, we cannot be able to do that because we are women. But we are asked to say no for gender-based violence, either physical, emotional, or mental.
I'm identifying with them because it's a just cause. We've been preaching this women abuse or discrimination for a long time, and so many men, so many households do not know the implication of doing such a thing. So today we are having a mild advocacy that can, in the comfort of their homes, reach out to them to tell them how these things do not conform with modern society. So I'm very happy, to identify with them. And I also like it because there's a feedback mechanism.
The FCT Orange Waka against GBV featured football match, a race, musical presentations, and many more. The mandate secretary, however, said other activities such as ministerial briefing and declaration of December 10th as the FCT Day for the Adolescent Girl, which will be the first anywhere in the world, are still underway. Usman Katun Umar, ASO Television News. Today's event is a continuation of
Welcome back from that break, and you've listened to the Secretariat of the FCT Women, and I'm sticking to issues that has to do with women is very, very important. And when it comes to the issue of women, we all know that yes, every child on earth is being bettered by a woman, and definitely you cannot throw them away. Just apart from one of the prophets, or one of the prophet of God, that's prophets, person of Jesus Christ, who had no father. Every other human on earth definitely has a mother. So when you look at issues like that, we seem to be a bit confused, because why are women also even having this gender-based violence when every man is being battered by a woman?
I think we'll go back to what we were discussing before. There is something as a society that we missed. And it's not to put blames, but as a society, we created systems that didn't value a life of human beings in a balanced manner for both men and women. There are roles and expectations that were placed and became a burden on either side. And then lack of clear systems that allow clear collaboration between men and women within a community instead ended up creating a gap, whether it is in the space of family or it is in the space of understanding, it is in the space of politics. Because even when you look at majority of, I want to comment on, but I'm new in Nigeria and I would love Nigerians to love me. So I'm not going to
be free. Nigeria is an open space.
So I'm not going to talk. It's just, even in the aspect of leadership, there's still our need to there being it's like when you cook. There are things for you to get a proper egusi soup. There are things that needs to be there, like crayfish. I'm learning. I'm learning a lot.
You'll be a good.
Good. So like that. If you don't, that is not egusi. There's something else is coming. So it's the same way. There's a reason why, as a community, we need to work together in a balanced manner, with balance and check, looking at the strengths that are within men and women biologically, within men and women psychologically, within men and women mentally, within men and women physically, to be able to work together in collaboration and compromise. There are times that you need to make a space for someone else, but it hasn't been the case. It has either been a full-blown patriarchal system, that patriarchal and misogyny that goes completely against and negate every feeling, every experience of a woman, or now out of pain, a full-blown system that is now negating the feelings and the reality of men.
But in this particular case, will you not say that with our current situation, will you say that even the push for women in the society is more or less like, people do say it is more or less like a Western push in Africa? That's one. And then number two,
you had to take me there.
Number two, the issue people do also attach to this particular issue with respect to violence against women. Now, I don't want to say gender-based. I want to be specific now. Women could be as a result of we having problem even from the family, where distinctive roles are not made known to the boy or to the girl. And when you look at that particular scenario, you start judging yourself. Which term will you now use in this particular case? equity or equality?
Oh, equality. Hey, that is a very interesting one. Okay, so first I'll start from the Western part. Wisdom. Okay, so I think for anything as a community, now I'll speak to African community. As a community, there are things we are stable mentally enough to understand the challenges that we're facing here home. We are matured enough to take and learn the things that we can adapt and learn, and the solutions that have worked in other regions that we can adapt and learn, but customize them in our ways. Adapting them, but customize them that they may fit
into our
culture and cater for our people. I don't say fit into because our culture isn't perfect. It's not, but at least cater to our people. So I think that will remove this whole blame of Western influence and all of that. And in other words, I'm going back to economics. For Africa to be independent and create our own systems and structures so we're not influenced by Western, we need to be economically independent. So we need to build our countries to be economically independent so we can make our own rules and create an environment for our own men and women, our own boys and girls to survive within our own environment. So let's take the blame from the Westerners. Okay. The second, in terms of the children, the family aspect, I'll give a simple example. I'm not sure how it's going here in Nigeria, but I understand that there is a need for governors to insist that the child's rights law is passed and it's implemented.
I think it's in the process if it has not been implemented.
Yes, yeah. And then the violence of persons prohibition law as well. But in Tanzania, for instance, we were advocating for a child's rights, especially in the aspect of marriage. Yeah. We have men in the government. We have people in the government that advocate for a girl child to be married at the age of 15.
Yeah. And
all we're asking is, can the child at least go to the global legal age of 18? So a 60-year-old man marries a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old girl. What do you expect is going to happen? The whole foundation of family itself is broken because a child is brought into.
But there's a perspective, I think, sometimes we have been carried away by the media, be it social media or the traditional media, that even this particular setting that you've just analyzed, it also happened in the Western world. It's not even restricted to Africa.
Does it mean that if...
No, I'm not saying it's just good in totality. What I'm saying is that people shouldn't have this perception that issues like this is restricted within our confines as Africa, as a nation, as a continent.
Honestly, I don't want to say I don't care, but honestly, what my focus is what are we doing right home? Just because my neighbor is burning their children doesn't mean I should burn mine.
But in this case, I want you to add your voice to the global voice, not just the African voice.
Fantastic.
Please.
Fantastic. So if I'm to say my stand will still be strict, actually for me it wouldn't be 18, it would be 21. For a child to be able to be legally married. For a girl child to be able to be legally married, she has to be 21. That would be my stand, not even 18.
But then, so invariably, you need the United Nations World Charter on adulthood. We start from 18 to be
21.
21.
21 or 20 minimum.
Wow.
Honestly, that would be, because there's all aspect of physical maturity. There's an aspect of mental and psychological maturity. There's an aspect of who is marrying her as well. Because it's one thing for a man 60-year-old of age to marry a 15-year-old girl. So all of those things, for me, I do stand and say it is wrong.
Okay, before you continue, I would like us to look at the issue of technology and how it has helped to revolutionize this particular issue. But then before we go into that, let us take this report by Anita. She reported on the issue of where the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of Miriam Babangida National Center for Women Development. So let's listen to the report before we come into technology. In a few minutes, we'll be running off the program.
ICT in addressing incidences of gender-based violence, GBV, was another avenue to re-echo the demand for total stoppage of the crime against women and inclusion in governance. Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the Mariam Babangida National Center for Women Development, Dr. Sabe Bashir, led the session involving presentation of a well-planned out dashboard made of placards bearing different inscriptions. This was supported with a presentation by the Director of ICT in the center, Mr. Johnson Udobong.
Today, the Mariam Babangida National Center for Women Development is saying, during the Cold War, it is saying no to GBV. I see violence around. Men will be fighting their wife. This wife is the manager of the house. She cooks for you, she brings you water to bath, you will sit there like a kid. So we are appealing to the government. Help us, all our gender bills in the National Assembly. Let us pass those bills so that we can have the real equality that we are talking about.
Dr. Sabe, while also noting importance of ICT in ongoing efforts at addressing GBV cases and preventing it, called on all to accelerate the fight. Expert broadcast journalist Mrs. Mujuma Konjola said, crowning all efforts is provision of education to young girls as an empowerment to acknowledge their rights and self-confidence.
Calling on our men, our husbands, and society in general to stop violating women, either physically or sexually or psychologically or socio-economically. These are partners in progress. Without women, there will be no nation. Please, we are calling for total prevention against violence against women. Most important, education make her to understand that her rights are being violated and she can seek for something where she is able to get it. So for me, it is important. It is number one, number two, number three, education. And it says that when you educate the woman or the girl, you have educated the
The event climaxed the 2023 edition of the United Nations 16 Days Commemoration, which runs from November 25th to December 10th every year.
The more we are together, the happier we shall be. And your friend is my friend, and my friend is your friend. The more we are together.
Welcome back, and you can see that everywhere seems to be painted orange, and all women seem to be gathering in a place, not even inviting the men to also partake in this their event. But then no problem. So now, in rounding up the program, what is your take for this year's 16 days activism against violence against women?
My take is very simple. What is being done is very good and it still needs to be done. Maybe I'll ask my sisters to invite more men. But I think there are things that need to be very clear. One, a child's right is extremely important, so the age of marriage in all countries in Africa, that's something that we need to look at. The aspect of family and how both men and women are being, boys and girls are being raised and protected from the young age is extremely important. So there has to be systems from a community level to the government level that insist that both children have a balanced way of growing up. The last is the economic and the technology aspect of it. Technology has contributed in bringing not just awareness, but in bringing a bit of balance in terms of access, but still there's a big gap, especially as far as women are concerned. And then finances. We need to do something to make sure that both genders in a community are financially, they have access to finances and are financially stable.
I thank God that at the end of the day, you didn't mention politics, because that would have been another point. But then this is how far we can go today on the afternoon edition, discussing with Vanessa Kisowile, the founder of She Found, discussing the issue of 16 days of activism and targeting violence against women, which we all kick against, including myself as a man, as the representative of the men on this particular table this afternoon. We hope and we pray that, yes, issues like this are properly addressed in the society, in our homes. And also the religious leaders must also play a major role in making sure that, yes, we have a stable family that can provide for a developing economy like Africa and Nigeria and Tanzania inclusive. This is how far I can go. My name is Isanu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.